All right, guys, happy Wednesday. I'm so sorry I'm late today. I feel like I always have to issue a statement that I'm not dead. Everyone's very worried about me. If I'm even 5 minutes late, I get a text message like, did they get you? Did they get you? Who is they? Well, I think we all know. If I do end up dead, you guys will be the first people to know who did decide to do the thing because, probably the same people that killed MLK, JFK. I don't know. I'm just saying stuff. We're talking a lot about the feds and the CIA. I may piss off the wrong people, certainly by taking a closer look at Kamala's genealogy. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing today, taking a closer look at Grandma Chrishy, because the math is simply not mathing. I'm driving myself insane, so I want to welcome you guys into all that we have uncovered about her so that you can help me. Also, there seems to be another big secret here that I can't quite figure out. Later on in the show, though, we're going to discuss Jeff Bezos because he wrote an op-ed to the Washington Post, which he owns, and it's pretty impactful. Basically, he says in so many words, everyone hates us, we suck, and we have to stop being so fake and gay. And I can co-sign that. So we'll discuss it. But first, I am feeling really upset at Shannon Sharpe today. Yeah, the former NFL player who hosts a podcast called Club Shay Shay, after his interview with Kamala Harris, because, he just didn't push her on some things that he decided to make fun of me about in the past. And yeah, we're going to get into that. Welcome back to Candace. Right, before we dive back into Kamala's genealogy, I do want to honorably mention Shannon Sharpe. And by honorably, I don't actually mean honorably, because I am just so sick and tired of this weird double standard that seems to exist in Black media, where they really throughout my entire career have rejected me, not wanted to have me on. She's not Black, Candace ain't Black. But then suddenly you have a candidate, a presidential candidate, who quite literally put on political blackface. We bust her in all of these lies, and nobody keeps that same energy. Like, what kind of Blackness are they actually guarding? Is it Blackness or is it just the Democratic Party? That's what I'm beginning to wonder. So I want to show you. When I got fired earlier this year from the Daily Wire, there were so many Black hosts who were just like dancing on my grave, like thinking that I wouldn't be successful ever again, and making up all of these conspiracy theories. And one of them was that I somehow knew I was leaving the Daily Wire. I didn't. And that was the reason I had just done Joe Budden's podcast. Like, Joe Budden randomly shouted me out on his podcast. I instantly responded, and he had me on. There was no move there. There was nothing being planned. And then the same thing with The Breakfast Club. Like, I would have loved to do that show for years and never invited me. They just happened to invite me after I did the Joe Budden podcast. So I did 2 in a row, and then I leave the Daily Wire, and the next thing you know, they're trying to drum up some conspiracy about me, like trying to Blackify myself, as if I have to do that. Spoiler alert, I'm already Black. I've been Black every single day of my life. I have not even taken a 10-minute recess. I have not been like, let me just chill for like 5 minutes and not be Black for a second. So it's so ridiculous and never warrants a response. But it does today, because I wanted you to compare and contrast Shay Shay's attitude when he addresses Blackness, when speaking about an actual Black person, and then when speaking to a person who's just wearing blackface. So here he is. Let's jog your memories about what Shannon Sharpe had to say about me following my exit from the Daily Wire. Take a listen.
Sometimes, and it's happened before, people in our community forget that they're Black. And they try to appease a group of people that's probably never going to embrace them. And once they realize that, guess who's the first group to take them back?
I don't know her.
You know, I ain't say nobody's name, Amanda.
I literally don't know her.
You don't even know who I'm talking about.
I don't know.
How you know who I'm talking about? But we've seen this happen before. Rest his soul, O.J. Simpson. He had the famous quote, "I'm O.J., I ain't Black." Even Michael Jackson went through what he went through, rest his soul.
Right.
Even Kanye had to be reminded. And now Miss Owens, I don't want no Black pilots, I don't want this, I don't want that. And now we can't keep off our Black media stations. When before she gave us her butt to kiss. Now, if I'm lying, if I'm speaking out of turn, people, y'all correct me. But y'all know I'm telling the truth.
No, you are literally not telling the truth. Nothing you are saying makes any sense. Again, every time I've been invited to go on a Black podcast, I've gone on it. But it's because of people who have your attitude and decided that people that are conservative just don't deserve a platform that I don't typically get invited. Like it happened totally organically, did not happen, had nothing to do. It happened before I left the Daily Wire. And like I said, you were dancing on my grave. And by the way, to the woman who said, I don't know her, I literally have no idea who you are. I don't know your name. I should have looked it up. That would have been the correct amount of journalism to do here, but it doesn't matter because I'm focusing here on Shannon Sharpe and this sort of attitude when a black person doesn't tap dance for the Democratic Party. So let's fast forward to this week or past couple of days. When he has on Kamala Harris, the entire community, the black community, is up in arms, recognizing that she literally plagiarized her grandparents to pretend that she was black when in fact she's Irish, Syrian, Jewish, and Indian. That is her correct genealogy. And so he has an opportunity to be the hero since you are the person that is deciding who is and is not black and when there's allowed to be black and how they're allowed to be black and, you know, the reason that they're acting black, whatever you're saying there, which makes absolutely no sense. You would think he would have taken the opportunity to address Kamala Harris's genealogy, her ancestry, who actually in your family is black. Instead, he gives her a platform. Listen to Kamala Harris here, because like I said, she's kind of doing the slow wipe here, trying to pretend like she never said she was black, never said she was African American. And she provides an excuse for how she's not really black, but is black on the basis of her mother's definition of community. I know that sounds crazy because it is. Take a listen.
My mother, she understood that there is a community that she wanted her children to be raised in. Mm-hmm. And she was very intentional and purposeful about that. And so I always say to people, even when I took the stage as the nominee for the Democratic nomination, that, you know, there is the family that you have by birth.
Okay.
And there is also the family you have by love.
No.
And they're equally family.
Yes.
Right?
No.
And I learned that from my mother.
No.
So my mother, I had all these aunties and uncles. My Uncle Sherman, who was one of the first black men to graduate from Berkeley School of Law, who, when we were young girls, sat us down and taught us how to play chess, because Uncle Sherman said, you need to understand how the chessboard works, because that's the way the world works. There are going to be different players with different moves, and you need to see the whole board. My mother raised us around, like my Auntie Chris, who went to Howard in the 50s and pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha. And she was one of my incredible role models growing up. And that was one of the big reasons I wanted to go to Howard University and pledge Alpha Kappa Alpha. Those are some of the lessons that I've learned from my mother. And I try to also share with people.
I mean, just look at him. How does that not register to Black America as an absolute fraud? Like, where is that same energy? He's like, yeah, that makes total sense. When, you know, and it's not your family, but it is your family. He's like, yeah. Yeah, just lapping it up and accepting whatever she says. Why? Because he doesn't have an original thought in his brain, and it's been mandated to him that the definition of blackness is basically enslaving yourself to the Democratic Party, even when you have someone who is quite literally wearing blackface. And for clarity, in case you are just jumping into this series, every single person that she just named there, her Auntie Chris, her Uncle Fred, her Aunt whatever, Shelly, none of those are her actual aunts and uncles. She admitted that in her book, if you read the fine print, that they weren't her actual aunts and uncles. But that's her experience with the black community. And she's essentially saying to Shannon Sharpe, yeah, I'm going to keep blackfacing this because my mom told me it's cool. And these are my aunties and these are my uncles. And that's that. That's just how family works, except that's literally not how family works. And so I just want to say, Shannon Sharpe, if you're watching this, and I'm sure someone will cut it so you can see it, you're a disgrace for that. You really are a disgrace for your treatment of somebody who's actually black when weighed against your treatment of somebody who has been wearing political blackface simply because she wants votes from people that she perceives as stupid. And by the way, you are playing the part there, Shannon Sharpe, of being an idiot. Yeah. Oh, I was talking about Candace Owens. By the way, shout out to the people when he was disrespecting me. If you go to those comments, him and the woman he's sitting across from, everybody came down on him and were just like, no. Just because she does not agree and go with the crowd, you don't get to disrespect her and say that she's somehow putting on like I don't speak to black people. Absolutely ridiculous. But I had to vent about that because when I saw that clip, I was like, I know he's not really out here doing that. And yes, he actually is. So Club Shay Shay, you are Club Nay Nay in my book. You absolutely, you suck for that. But I will say to you, because I'm always open to having a conversation, I will have a conversation with you. You've never invited me. How could a person who never invited me onto their show make that statement? Is it not just absolutely ridiculous? Anyways, moving on, because I do want to jump back into her actual genealogy, not her aunties and uncles that aren't aunts and uncles and yup, Club Shay Shay, but like the actual uncles and aunts who she never mentioned, who are very white or very Jewish. And I have just been completely confused about this Miss Chrishy. We've talked about her in the past, but I really want to hone in on her because I'm telling you, I was just on a spiral today going, okay, nothing is making sense. Okay, so just to remind you, obviously, Chrishy is the person who was the biggest inspiration in Donald Harris's life. Instantly a red flag, spoke to a relative of his. I told you that back when I spoke to one of Donald Harris's half siblings, and they said that they had never met Miss Chrishy, who would be their grandmother. So you got one sibling who's like unbelievably close and being raised by, and the other sibling, same grandparent, and never heard of them, doesn't have a picture in the house, and realize that is actually remarkably suspicious, that they don't actually know their own grandparent. And so I decided to look for clues in his essay, and just reminding you, he told us that his roots go back to Miss Chrishy, that she was formerly Christiana Brown, so presumably she got married, and he says right out, is honest about the fact that she is a descendant of Hamilton Brown, who is on record as a plantation and slave owner and the founder of Brownstown. He was a nasty piece of work, extraordinarily racist, whipped the crap out of his slaves, and fought so that slavery would never end. He did not want the abolishment of slavery, and he went to England to fight it at every regard. He was known to be particularly vicious and abusive. What's really interesting is that Snopes was trying, when people started realizing that she descended from slaves, and yet she's walking around talking about her being African American, Snopes tried to write a piece in defense of Kamala Harris that actually further substantiates that Christiana Brown, in my view, doesn't actually exist, or at least that's not her name. So they wrote this in 2019. The title here is, Did U.S. Senator Kamala Harris's ancestor own slaves in Jamaica? And directly from that piece, they write, we have not yet found a record of a Christiana Brown being born to Mary Melvina Brown. Such a record would establish a link between Donald Harris's paternal grandmother, Christiana, and the Antrim slave owner, Hamilton Brown. As a result of this absence, we are issuing a rating of unproven until such evidence emerges. So they're basically saying we can't find who she was born of. He's telling us, they're basically saying Donald Harris is a liar, right? We can't find the record, so we're saying that it's unproven, and for whatever reason, I guess he would want the street cred of saying that his relatives, his ancestors were slave owners. No, obviously not. He's obviously telling the truth. This woman, who knows what her name is clearly descended from Hamilton Brown. And yet when we did this chart, so I want you to take a look at this. When we did this chart, first and foremost, I just want to let you know, there is incest guaranteed. There's no question that Hamilton Brown was both Mary Melvina's father and the person that she married. It's very strange. She either married her brother, who might have been Hamilton Brown Jr., or she married her father. That part's unclear, but there is definitively incest. Everybody has pointed that out and emailed, and I'm not going to make a big whatever about it, because it's just like, okay, we're talking about the 1800s, and I don't think it's really going to make or break people voting for her. It really doesn't have anything to do with her, but there's incest, no question. And what they're basically pointing out, Snopes, is that she's allegedly supposed to be the child of Mary Melvina Brown, but they can't find that in a record. Instead, someone seems to have produced a fake birth record saying that, well, her mom's name is Mary Ann Brown, but that would not make her a descendant of Hamilton Brown. So that's problematic. If she's got a mom named Mary, it's got to be this Mary Melvina Brown. And every time we tried to look and piece her in, and this is supposed to be, again, Donald's grandmother, we cannot find this woman anywhere. So I said, you know what, let's pull that chart back up. I said, let's take a look at the actual confirmed descendants of Hamilton Brown, like the people who we can find their tombstones, some of them literally say, like, the son of Hamilton Brown, like it's very clear. You find their obituaries. You, again, also suspect that we have all of these people that we can find obituaries and tombstones for, but we can't find anything about Miss Chrishy, who was just this huge influence on Donald's life. Like, who is this grandma? Is he pulling the Kamala? Is he like, hey, if you feel a connection and an affinity, you could just be like, that's my grandma. That's my grandma. Which is just wild, by the way. Quick pause. Like, what are we even talking about? Like, I had close family friends. I actually was really close with a woman named Bernadette, who was like a second mom to me. Can I now run as an Irish president of the United States? This is wild. This is crazy talk. Of course you can't. So we took a look at those relatives who had tombstones and had obituaries. And I said, actually, in the Kingston Gleaner, they always tell you who attended the funeral. And it's interesting because we keep seeing Oscar Brown Harris, as a pallbearer. He would have been like 30 years old. And we still can't find Christiana Brown anywhere. So I'm going to show you Edwin Brown's obituary because there's a couple of things that are super interesting about it. This is his obituary. I want to say he died September 15th. Maybe it's like 1939. I have it written down somewhere. I don't have it here. But it tells you who is at his funeral. You can see up there who the pallbearers are. It tells you that you have the Misters C. Brown and D.A. Brown. Those are the brothers of the deceased. That all checks out. Stanley Brown and Oscar Brown, which are listed as cousins, which would imply that Mary Melvina had a sister, or Hamilton Brown had a third sister. It was totally incestuous, and they birthed Oscar Brown. That is very strange that he's being mentioned as a cousin when he should be mentioned as a nephew. And I do think that that family line had a lot of incest, and that could be the secret. But if you keep looking at that obituary, what's also interesting is when you look down, there is a mention, I believe it is in this one, of look at the bottom there, a couple of lines up. It says Christiana Rose. Okay, so we were interested in that. And also next to Christiana Rose is Beryl Harker. Let's just remember that Beryl is the Grandma Beryl. We're looking for Grandma Beryl. So I said, okay, let's take a look. Could this be Miss Chrishy? Could this be the Beryl that we're looking for? And it's like a dead end. It's like a total dead end. When I look up Christiana Rose, it is very apparent that she owned land. So that would check out, because the woman that we're looking for, far from this depiction that she's potentially just some mixed person and Hamilton Brown raped a slave, which I felt like they were trying to make us think. She obviously was legitimate, okay? Because Oscar Brown is attending these funerals. You don't just rape a slave and then invite the product of that child to be the pallbearer. And beyond that, we know that she owned dry goods stores. She was engaged in politics. This is not some illegitimate child. Christiana, in the way that he describes her in her piece, was a descendant of Hamilton Brown, not an illegitimate person, and she owned land. So when we found Christiana Rose, I started thinking maybe they just made up the name Christiana, full stop, made up a name Christiana, showed a picture of this woman to make people think that, Kamala potentially is mixed somewhere along the line. I am fully of the belief that the photos that have been shown of the grandparents are completely faked. Not faked as in the photo of the individuals are fake, but that they are not the people that they purport them to be, that Kamala is just adopting people. Maybe that woman was like a grandma, but that's not her real grandma. So is Christiana Rose her real grandma? We don't know, because then we can find virtually nothing about Christiana Rose other than the fact that she received property from her father, who seems to be one of the original people in St. Anne as well. Also of interest, and this could be a potential lead, is that same Edwin Brown obituary that we're looking at. His tombstone says son of Hamilton Brown, and it also says of Pedro Farm. And that's the first time that I had recognized that, of Pedro Farm. It allows us to put at least some coordinates on the map, and we're continuing to research and say, okay, well, if we're looking for a family that was running Pedro Farm, we should be able to find some names. We should be able to find some names within the Kingston Gleaner. So we found that today. So we're just now exploring that lead. The other possibility is if they made up this name, there's got to be a reason they made up the name, right? And I never felt that woman was married to Joseph Alexander Harris. Joseph Alexander Harris, we know he's a Syrian Jew. He looks exceptionally sharp and dressed in his photo, like his father looked and his father's father looked. And it didn't feel like the right vibe. Well, something that was of interest is I was like, let me look up in the Kingston Gleaner and see everything that I can find about Joseph Alexander, because maybe they're just hiding who he actually married. Maybe that's the big secret. Maybe it's a big incest secret. Maybe Oscar Harris is the product of incest, because, he went by Oscar Brown Harris. Maybe two siblings got together, and what you really have is that he is just the product of a mom and dad that are also sister and brother. Maybe. So I started crawling through the Kingston Gleaner, looking to see what I could find about Joseph Alexander. Again, Joseph Alexander is supposed to be the person that had a child with Miss Chrishy, and that child is supposed to be Oscar Joseph. And what we did uncover was this entry. It's a notice. Now, this is going to look strange to you, so I'll just tell you, because the first time I saw it, I thought it was weird. But if you had a wife or a spouse that left you, you had to publicly post it in the newspaper so that you would not be deemed responsible for their debts if anything were to happen. And this person, who is Joseph Alexander Harris, writes, my wife, Carolina, or published rather, my wife, Caroline Verolita Harris, having left my home, care, and protection without my knowledge, I hereby warn the public that I will not be responsible for any debts that she may contract. Signed, Joseph Alexander Harris, on June 27th of 1934. Now, that could be a different Joseph Alexander Harris. We did find another potential Joseph Alexander Harris, but we haven't been able to verify that these are not just completely fake records, because every person that's listed in that family tree doesn't have a tombstone. It's like someone just made birth records. And as I've learned from Donald Harris's family, that's very easy in Jamaica, especially for them. It was easy because they were establishing the town. But then he said, even later on, him growing up, all you had to do was go down and bribe someone, know somebody down at the office and be like, hey, can you make this? And they could make that stuff on the spot. So finding a birth record is not convincing for me. And that was actually rightly pointed out by Snopes, that the birth record that exists for Christiana doesn't make any sense. There's no father listed, and there's a Mary Ann Brown that doesn't actually exist, and it has to be Mary Melvina Brown, but we can't find a birth record from Mary Melvina Brown having birthed Christiana. So birth records in Jamaica at this time and way forward into the future are just not reliable. They're not reliable. And so, but what I feel is reliable are tombstones. It's a little harder to fake that to bury someone. I'm not saying you can't, you certainly can, but we could not establish, it almost seemed like someone created another Joseph Alexander Harris, and we don't know if that's the right person, if this could be the person that they're hiding, someone that he did marry, or if that's a different family tree. That's where we're at. Christiana is driving me absolutely insane, and so I wanted to open up to the public about it, because what ends up happening is when I get stuck on something, then one of you guys emails me, and it's like, poof, a breakthrough. And so I was like, why am I driving myself crazy? I'm going to use the internet and the people that have been following me on the series, who are going to now dig like me. We're going to become, especially women, like the CIA, and we're going to pull something up. But I'm telling you, just in closing, that if this is a thing going forward, that you can just say that you have some friends and you are that somehow like family, and then you can just like take on that race. I am definitively running as the first Japanese dictator of the United States. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I hope you guys vote for me, because I do want to be the dictator of the United States. I feel like I could dictate some things that would make society a little bit better. All right, guys, the media has dubbed this the abortion election. We have to stand up to this evil. When you join forces with Preborn, the largest pro-life organization in the nation, you are protecting the greatest victims in our society, of course, babies in their mother's wombs. Preborn's network of clinics are positioned in the highest abortion areas in the nation, and they have rescued over 300,000 babies. When a woman considering an abortion searches to end her baby's life, Preborn is there. Preborn gives these women in need a free ultrasound, because the power of hearing a heartbeat on the ultrasound combined with God's love doubles a baby's chance at life. One ultrasound costs just $28, and up to 5 are $140. Any gift will help their cause, and all gifts are tax deductible. To donate securely, you just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. Again, that is pound 250 baby, or you can head to preborn.com/Candace. Again, that's preborn.com/Candace. All right, Jeff Bezos wrote a thing, and it's kind of interesting. So in case you're not following this, it's hilarious. I actually think it's weird that you have editorial boards that give presidential endorsements, because the whole idea that they're supposed to be selling to us is that they're neutral. And so when they just go, I endorse this president, and it's the most predictable president given the publication, you're like, okay, this is why I don't listen to anything you say or believe anything that you write, because it's very obvious that you are incredibly biased in all of your pieces. So Jeff Bezos, they had run it up, I guess, the top editor or whatever, ran it up the chain and said, Jeff Bezos, we're endorsing Kamala Harris. And Jeff Bezos said, no, we're just done with endorsements. We're not endorsing anybody. And they panicked. It turned into toddlers in tiaras. The Washington Post, they broke down. These adults had mental breakdowns. They said, no, what are you saying? Are you saying we have to be objective? Are you saying that we're supposed to be objective journalists? We don't do that anymore at the Washington Post. And it's not a joke. 3 of the Washington Post's 10-person editorial board announced that they were stepping down after Jeff Bezos blocked the endorsement of Kamala Harris. Like, I can't even, it's funny. It's genuinely funny. We should laugh. It's, they don't appreciate the irony of that. Like, yes, that is the problem. The fact that you are quitting your job, like you're saying, if we have to be fair, I'm quitting my job. It's like, okay. And that's what they did. They quit their job. You have people who had been at the paper for more than 4 decades, like David Hoffman. He just stepped down. Molly Roberts, Millie Mitra. They were just like, I can't handle this. I have to be biased. And also the editor at large, a guy named Robert Kagan, also resigned in protest. And apparently a bunch of people said, we're unsubscribing. We're unsubscribing to the Washington Post. This is a huge mistake. And they wrote a statement saying that the refusal to endorse a presidential candidate is a mistake. I can't believe that they can't appreciate that they have just become cartoons. Like, you are a Will Ferrell skit waiting to happen. I mean, Saturday Night Live should make that a skit. If they want to be funny again, they should make it a skit. Like, when they got challenged to do their jobs, be unbiased, they just lost it. They just completely lost their ish and said, I'm out of here. That's not what I'm here for. And I love that honesty. Anyways, what I wanted to point out to you was that Jeff Bezos, that is, ended up writing a piece basically saying why he asked them to do their jobs and not be unbiased. And it's entitled "The Hard Truth: Americans Don't Trust the News Media." Of course, everybody knows that. It's at an all-time low. What is it, like 30% of people actually trust the mainstream media? And I would say that those 30% might be suffering from like a mental illness. Truly, we have found the dumbest people in our society. Like, if you were like, I really trust the mainstream media, and you're part of that 30%, you really have to just re-examine your life after the last few years. I'm going to read you a couple of portions from what he wrote. I just highlighted it because I didn't want to read the entire thing, but he writes that most people believe the media is biased. Anyone who doesn't see this is paying scant attention to reality, and those who fight reality lose. Reality is an undefeated champion. It would be easy to blame others for our long and continuing fall in credibility, and therefore our decline in impact. But a victim mentality will not help. Complaining is not a strategy. We must work harder to control what we can control to increase our credibility. Presidential endorsements do nothing to tip the scales of an election. No undecided voters in Pennsylvania are going to say, quote, I'm going with newspaper A's endorsement. None. What presidential endorsements actually do is create a perception of bias, a perception of non-independence. Ending them is a principled decision, and it's the right one. Of course, that is correct. What do you think people believe when you say that you're coming together to endorse a presidential candidate, especially one as ridiculous as Kamala Harris, who didn't even earn the vote? She just was kind of waiting for Joe Biden to die at the right time, and then they were like, here you go. Now you're the candidate. Nobody voted for her. That's just crazy to think that she's like trying to occupy the highest office in the land and no one voted for this woman. And they're like, we're endorsing the woman that nobody voted for. And they can't figure out in their own heads why that's bad. He goes on to write, in the annual public surveys about trust and reputation, journalists and the media have regularly fallen near the very bottom, often just above Congress. But in this year's Gallup poll, we have managed to fall below Congress. Our profession is now the least trusted of all. Something we are doing is clearly not working. Lack of credibility isn't unique to the Post. Our brethren newspapers have the same issue, and it's a problem not only for media, but also for the nation. Many people are turning to off-the-cuff podcasts. Hey. Inaccurate social media posts and other unverified news sources, which can quickly spread misinformation and deepen divisions. The Washington Post and the New York Times win prizes, but increasingly, we talk only to a certain elite. More and more, we talk to ourselves. Oh my gosh, this is something that I have noticed. And there is a great example of that this year, because if the media had any impact at all, the amount of hit pieces that were written about me, it's unbelievable. Actually, I'm going to have to go back and count them one day. Basically, like, she's done, she's crazy, she's over. You had like Barry Weiss writing newsletters for weeks. And it's like, guys, who are you writing this to? You're just writing it to yourselves. You don't even care what people think anymore. You don't care. You just care about what you think. And you believe that you guys are the elites, and you sit in your circles and you're like, yes, well, we understand. And this is what we're going to do to fix the problem of people not believing us. We're going to keep smearing and libeling everybody all the time as racist and sexist and misogynist and anti-Semites. And then we're going to go, it's very weird that they're turning to independent media when we told people that independent media is racist, sexist, and misogynist. We told them. Like, it's mind it really is mind-numbing. When you take a look at them, it just seems to be a huge circle, and they're all writing to each other. They're texting each other. I know for a fact they're on text chains together, and it's ridiculous. Nobody cares anymore. We are living in a post-mainstream media world, and I love that, but Jeff Bezos does not. He writes conclusively, while I do not and will not push my personal interest, I will also not allow this paper to stay on autopilot and fade into irrelevance, overtaken by unresearched podcasts and social media barbs, not without a fight. It's too important. The stakes are too high. Listen, it's a noble attempt, Jeff. I just feel like you should have maybe done that like 10 years ago when you purchased it. That's it is genuinely too late. Like, no one, just watching them all resign really just was a confirmation to us that we just shouldn't listen to you guys anymore. And sure, if you're saying he's trying to get more conservative people to write articles, it's a noble endeavor. I will pay attention to it. But the reality is people prefer independent podcasts for a reason. It's because at least they know that we're willing to ask the questions. Hey, if you guys want a little bit of street cred, maybe instead of constantly trying to debunk everything that independent researchers are saying and podcasters are saying, why don't you dive in? Why don't you actually dive in? Like, this is a pretty big story. It's millions and millions of views on Kamala's genealogy, and we've caught her red-handed in some lies and verified it with her own family members, and no one wants to cover it in your newspaper. Why? In fact, I should have pulled this up. Somebody forwarded me the snootiest. It was some guy named Tom who writes for the New York Times, and he politely wrote Tom and was like, hey, Tom, why aren't you doing like anything on Candace's reporting? And he wrote back the most astounding, snooty, elitist, out-of-touch email I've ever read in my life, basically saying to him, like, I don't have to listen to Candace. I write for the New York Times, blah, blah, blah. She's an idiot. And I was like, and that is why you guys are all fading into irrelevancy, because you just think you're better than everybody else and keep proving that you're absolutely not better than everybody else. So anyways, I thought that was a really good piece written by him. And we'll see. We'll see if it has any impact. By the way, do you think you guys know who's going to win the presidential election or how many seats the Democrats or Republicans will win in the House or Senate? Well, there's a legal financial exchange that lets you trade or bet on the outcome of these elections. It's called Kalshi. Kalshi went to court against the Biden administration, and they won legal approval for election betting for the first time in over 100 years. They have markets on who will win the presidential election, who will control the House and Senate, and who will win swing states and more. Kalshi is already being used by hundreds of thousands of people and has facilitated over $1 billion worth of trades. And what's cool about the platform is that you can trade on your opinions to make money, or you can hedge your political risks. You can also check the market odds to see who is more likely to win at any given time. Right now, the odds are near 58-42. Not surprisingly, Trump is up big. The elections markets are now live to trade. They are the first regulated place where you can do this right now when you sign up at kalshi.com/Candace. The first 500 traders who deposit $100 will get a free $20 credit. That's kalshi.com/Candace. All right, we have to cover this garbage story, literally a garbage story about Puerto Rico. And this is, listen, I don't know what to say. Nobody has a sense of humor anymore. That's really what it comes down to. When you book a comedian, the comedian's job is to offend you. That's like the point. There used to be a time in America where comedians used to get up on stage and they would be racist and sexist and misogynist and offensive to everybody in the room. And then you'd laugh and realize that you're not that important and you all kind of suck a little bit and you feel a little closer because of it. But now we've transformed into this world where everybody clutches their pearls all the time. And so at the Madison Square Garden rally that Trump hosted, they had comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, who is quite literally known for making racist jokes all the time. That's literally what he does for a living. And I had not seen the clip until after the media panic and freaking out about what he said about Puerto Rico. And then when I saw it, I was like, man, I just hate the world for the reaction that they are having to this. So let's actually watch what Tony Hinchcliffe said on stage. Please, if you're listening, grab your pearls right now. Take a listen.
There's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay, all right, okay, we're getting there. Now, again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody. This isn't exactly a perfect comedy setup.
So he's obviously probably super nervous. He's sitting there on stage, and he's probably the biggest crowd he's ever been in front of, if we're being honest. It's Madison Square Garden, and it's packed. you have every right to think it's not funny. That's totally fine. I didn't think it was funny when what's his name? I don't know why I'm totally blanking on him. Dave Chappelle got on stage and did an entire segment on me during the George Floyd stuff, and he said some offensive things about me, and then the whole media was so happy because they hated Candace Owens because she was anti-BLM, and they were like, what's your response? My response was, he's a comedian. This is what he's supposed to do. We need comedians. Like, when we start killing the jester, we're in trouble. We are just in trouble as a society. When you're like, kill the jester, when the kings start killing the jesters, you know that you are really getting into a scary point in your society. And so whether or not you think it's funny, you are just supposed to permit it. You do not take it seriously. You just are not supposed to take it seriously. And that's exactly what some people did. And suddenly you have him, they cut out all of the other people that he offended. He offended many other races while he was up there. And he's obviously pointing to, just trying to make people laugh, whether or not it landed or not. He's just trying to make people laugh. It's a tough job being a comedian with such an uptight nation that we've become. And then you had Audrey Plaza, an actress, take this so seriously, speaking at the Wall Street Journal Magazine Innovator Awards on Tuesday night. And here's what she had to say. Take a listen.
As a Puerto Rican woman, I just wanted to very quickly respond to the racist joke that was made at that Trump rally about Puerto Rico, where most of my family is from. Thankfully, my sweet abuelita wasn't here to hear that disgusting remark, but if she was alive today, I think she would say, Tony Hinchcliffe, go f yourself. And yes, the Wall Street Journal can quote me on that.
By the way that she says abuelita, it didn't really sound like it's abuelita. I don't know. It just feels like, I don't know. I'm going to have to do her genealogy. That's what I'm thinking. But here's the point. She's supposed to be a comedian. She can't take a joke. That's the society that we're in. Like, she's literally supposed to be a comedic actress. And she's like, go F yourself. And how dare you say this? And I just have like a basic question. Is it true? Because for this amount of offense, I haven't been to Puerto Rico. But when people get this offended over something, I'm like, what happened? Because I know a lot of the Caribbean islands ain't looking good right now. I was shocked when I went back to St. Thomas, which is where part of my family is from, and it was looking a little dumpy. You know, this is just like America does. We're just turning everything into a dump. So is Puerto Rico a dump? Let me know. Déjame saber. I'm just asking the questions, okay? I'm just asking the questions. I love you back. Calm down. Anyways, the best response to this actually came from Jon Stewart, because he's a comedian and he chose to make fun of everybody that was being over the top about it, and also showed other clips of the comedian being racist, because again, that's what he does. Take a listen.
The opening act, grabbing headlines for all the wrong reasons. A comedian who offered unfunny, racist, cringeworthy jokes.
Basically calling Puerto Ricans trash.
The most repulsive racial jokes about Latinos.
Disgusting and hateful.
So incredibly crude.
Frankly, just too X-rated to play here.
Extremely vile so-called jokes.
Extremely vile so-called jokes. She name-checked my comedy album from the 90s. Did I really? I don't know who's AI, me or that guy. Now, obviously, in retrospect, having a roast comedian come to a political rally a week before Election Day and roasting a key voting demographic, probably not the best decision by the campaign politically. But to be fair, the guy's really just doing what he does. I mean, here he is at the Tom Brady roast a few months ago.
The great Jeff Ross, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff is so Jewish, he only watches football for the coin toss. Gronk, you look like the Nazi that kept burning himself on the ovens. Kevin is so small that when his ancestors picked cotton, they called it deadlifting.
Yes, of course. Terrible, boo, yes. There's something wrong with me. I find that guy very funny. So, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, bringing him to a rally and have him not do roast jokes, that'd be like bringing Beyonce to a rally and not have... Oh.
I'm sorry. I just agree with him. I find racist jokes to be funny. I really do. I make them all the time to my sisters, my cousins. I got mixed people in my family, cousins that are Mexican, I make Mexican jokes. Cousins that are part Puerto Rican, I make Puerto Rican jokes. And so if you're just easily offended, I guess you probably don't listen to this podcast either. I want to be on record. I hate everybody. You know what I mean? Like if you're like, Candace, is it because I'm Italian or because I'm Irish, because I'm Jewish? Yeah. It's all those things. I don't like anybody but the Japanese people. They have a very remarkably clean, non-pornographic society. So it's totally fine. It's totally fine to make racist jokes. It's fine to say fake and gay. I'm just really tired of everybody being so offended all the time. I miss the 90s, man. Like loosen up. Just loosen up. Again, you don't have to think it's funny, but the reaction, like it's the end of the world, completely crazy. It's not like he's like a sitting president saying this stuff. Seriously. Which is what Biden did. Biden was just like, okay, are we overreacting about a comedian saying something about Puerto Rico? Well, hold my beer, Hinchcliffe, because I'm about to just call more than half the nation garbage. He really did this. It's incredible. By the way, I just shout out to Biden for just embracing being dead and being nowhere at all. And like we've just accepted that we don't have a president. There's been no president. He just was like, I'm done pretending. I'm going to go to Delaware. I'm going to go on a beach. And we all were like, okay, we're all okay with it. We're so fine with that. But then he like jumped back in this and he's like, but wait, I got to do one more thing. I got to call, because it worked out so well for Hillary Clinton when she called everybody deplorables. I got to make sure that I call everybody garbage. So here he is responding to the comedian making a joke by not making a joke as a sitting president of the United States. Take a listen.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of CNN is unconscionable, and it's un-American.
Come on, CNN. You know better than to let that man go live. That is your fault. That is on you, CNN. Okay? We know that he's supposed to be reading from a prompter from 3 days ago, allow them to AI edit it. I mean, that is just on you. And so now they basically just volleyballed that. It looked like it was going to be a scandal for Trump. And then Biden said, hold my beer. And that's where we're at today. We're all garbage. Okay, whatever. I think it's best to just let him go back to Delaware. He was just so much better, like, being half dead, I think is more appropriate. All right, guys, the economy has been a major burden on the average American. Wages are flat, expenses are up, and it's hard to pay all the bills without using credit cards. If you're a homeowner and you're frustrated with that cycle, I need you to make a 10-minute, no-obligation phone call today to my friends in American Financing. Interest rates are coming down and are now in the low 5s, and if you're constantly carrying a credit card balance with the rate in the 20s, American Financing can show you how to put your hard-earned equity to work and get you out of debt. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are saving their customers an average of $800 a month. And if you get started today, you may not even have to make next month's mortgage payment. So call today at 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210. Or you can visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. Again, that's americanfinancing.net/Owens. By the way, I want to shout out the Australians because they are not taking me being banned sitting down. They have started a petition. They are making all of these videos. They're saying they're going to drop it off at Tony Burke's office. It just makes me so happy to know that people are fighting for free speech. They're outraged about what the Zionist Federation has done. Obviously, the majority of these events were completely sold out. So they made a decision that was not done on behalf of the people, but rather was done on behalf of political interests. And I just wanted to tell you guys that I saw the petition. I think it's on like Life. Skylar, look up the website that it's on and let me know. Oh, here it is. Amazing. Lifepetitions.com. Somebody put this up, and I just find this to be incredible that they did this. So sign it, deliver to Tony Burke. We're watching you. And just so you guys know, we are taking this to the courts. Like, we're going to fight this. And so you may have gotten like you're not getting a refund just yet. We're going to see if we can get this struck down in court notification. That is exactly what we are doing, because I never give up without a fight. I like fighting. That's the problem. I'm happy fighting. I'm so happy fighting. It's got to drive people crazy. I truly am a happy warrior, and I am that way because I'm free. I can say whatever it is that I want, and I trust my audience. My audience trusts me, and I'm just grateful for you guys. And also, again, you guys support me independently, locals.com, patreon.com. Thanks to all of you guys. Just by subscribing, by the way, if you're watching this on Rumble or YouTube, hit the subscribe button. I think we're really close to 3 million on YouTube, which is amazing. And we finally have broke, I think, almost 250,000 on Rumble, which we've just started. So I'm really proud of all of that progress. All right, I'm going to read some of your comments now. Let's see what you guys are thinking. I know I'm having way too much fun. I should look more depressed when bad things happen to me, but I just know that in the end we win, man. I got the Christ spirit. This person writes, Candace, just wondering, When will your new book come out? Also, I've signed the petition to let you speak in Australia. Keep fighting the good fight. I love you so much. Yes, we actually just figured out how to publish the book somewhat independently. And so we are expecting the book to drop in Q1 of next year. So I will keep you posted, and you guys are going to absolutely love it. And I've actually written it years ago. I've just been sitting on it and waiting for a publisher that is willing to publish me, because the industry is controlled and you're not allowed to publish different ideas. And my first book almost got dropped because of my views on George Floyd. That's a true story, which I'll share another day. Abigator writes, can you find out what the dry goods store was called and look at old newspaper archives? Maybe there are pictures printed in the paper about it. Okay, Abigator, that is a great question, and we have explored that, and that's why I think the Pedro Farms thing might be a link. And like I said, my suspicion is that Christiana is, if she is the child, she could be the child of the Hamilton Brown, and it's just a full incestuous family, and she has a different last name. But that's my suspicion. That's what I feel is actually happening. And I am still pouring through newspaper archives every single day as we keep getting more hints and more tidbits. And we are a very small team, so we do rely a lot on you guys helping us as well. Matilda writes, Kamala talking about her blackness without mentioning her father's side is telling. I'm glad you exposed her. Also, her family in general isn't around her that much. Trump's family is everywhere. Hope you heard that, Club Shay Shay. Yeah, you hear that? 100% true. She's like completely isolated from her family. Her and her father don't get along. Don't forget, he like slapped her down years ago, and he's gone like completely MIA. He's nowhere near her. So you're right. That is a red flag. Katie F. and Marie writes, can you bring the author of Chaos on for an interview? I think your listeners would benefit from this. Also, please look into Jeffrey McDonald. He is still in jail, and the case is eerily similar to Chaos. Yes, we have tried to bring the author on. We had communication with him, but he said he was working on his second book, and he wasn't doing any interviews until then. I know that he has sold a ton of copies. He owes me a check. I think he owes me like royalties, is what I'm going to tell him for real when I see him. And now they have restocked Chaos in bookstores all across America because it has been selling out. But it is such a great book, and honestly, he deserves all the success in the world. For those of you that have read it, he went completely flat broke, and it took him decades, and he lost his job because he became truly obsessed with the Charles Manson case and the things that he was uncovering. So he fully deserves it. And my producer is noting that Jeffrey McDonald is an American former medical doctor and United States Army captain who was convicted of murdering his pregnant wife and 2 daughters while serving as an Army Special Forces physician. He maintains his innocence. Wow. That is saying a lot, given what we learned in Chaos about them MK Ultraing people and getting them to commit murders, and they had drugging them and them having absolutely no memory of what they were making them do. The things that they have done to people that have served in the military, and learning about one guy who was given the electric chair by the guy who was leading the MK Ultra, knowing fully that they had MK Ultra him and he had no memory of the crime of assaulting a toddler. It was one of the darkest chapters in Chaos, I would say. Sarah writes, don't get upset when they try to smear you, Candace. The real ones know. I know. They've called me everything now. And like I said, it's an echo chamber at this point. They're just writing to themselves because they feel so elite and so powerful, even though no one's listening. We're on the outside, and it's way more fun here. Trading Pennies writes, Candace for Trump's press secretary. That would actually be fun. I would have a very fun time doing that. 123B writes, God bless you and yours, Candace. Nice job. Viva Cristo Rey. You should be ashamed of being a white supremacist because CNN told me that you were. Hey, it's Zach Rorden writes, Kamala and her family are nefariously using black people for their own self-interest, just like they did in slave days. There was nothing new under the sun. They never stopped, and Dems are doing the same. That's another thing. He didn't even question her about her slave-owning family, the origins. I mean, I really have it out now for Shannon Sharpe. I just think he's such a fraud for that. Just such a fraud for that. But I'm willing to talk about it because I am an open-minded individual, and I like to understand how people, become frauds, how they became frauds. How did Shannon Sharpe become that person who is just up there tap dancing for the Democratic Party in that regard? Then lastly, we have Doggett. Doggett writes, Candace, my 9-year-old daughter and I love watching all your videos. You are a great example of a black woman, and I want my daughter to look up to you. Watching from Melbourne, Australia. We love you. Well, hopefully I will be able to see you in Melbourne, Australia. We will see. Either way, thank you guys so much for the support. Fingers crossed. If it doesn't happen, then it wasn't meant to happen. It was actually meant to serve as what it is, which is a massive scandal and awakening so many people in Australia to the fact that the government is not working for you. They're working against you. It's eerily similar to a communist regime, making these sorts of sweeping decisions for non-criminals while allowing criminals within your borders, people with records to with criminal records to perform, people that were arrested this year multiple times, like Travis Scott was, who's due to perform. It is meant to serve, if this is the ultimate decision, it is meant to serve as an awakening, and it will in fact backfire. I believe that. I believe nothing happens that the Lord does not will to happen. And I will leave it at that. Don't forget to hit subscribe, you guys. We will see you tomorrow.